I know there's no off season for certain parts of the country, but if you live in the northern tundra, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Iowa, the Dakotas, other parts of the country, there's definitely an off season when it comes to the fishing season. So we're the much neglected rod and reel maintenance on tonight. Everybody out protesting tonight, not me. But so we're gonna hang out. I feel like this is like the what do they call it, the mukbang, where like people like eat food and hang out and talk and live stream. But we're gonna go through my rods and reels that need cleaning and maintenance, and I'm gonna give you a few tips and maybe tell you some stories about the rods and answer questions. What's up, Sam Axe? Rex, North Star Custom Baits. So dig into it. We so I've got a pile of rods here. I've called out some of the newer ones that definitely don't need to be touched. Um and but there's a lot of them that have gotten multiple seasons of hard use, and I can already see a culprit here. I'll kind of explain how did we get to this spot. So we're gonna take off the rod glove here. So first up, just pulling the rod sleeve off, one of my eyes already popped out. So it's probably an eye that is like popped out of here maybe 10 times this year, maybe more. Maybe it was doing it last year and I never got around to fixing it. Maybe I've glued it back in, but it needs to be wrapped, pulled, and redone. Thanks, Brian. Um, so as always, HellaBass Live brought to you by Arsenal Fishing, boosted by Powerhouse Lithium. And so we're gonna go through it. So this is we're just gonna start the process of so this is a Dobyns 744 Champion XP. I got a Tatula SV on it. I mainly flip jigs and Texas rigs on like 17 to 20 pound fluoro into grass, wood, things like that. You know, half to 3/4 ounce jigs, tungsten is typically what's on this rod. So it gets a lot of slacklining abuse, and we occasionally pop some eyes like that one. So what we're going to do, like usually the 2-foot guides are not an issue, right? But between potentially stepping on these, crushing them on the trolling motor stabilizer, um, just repeated hook sets, things flex, things come loose. I don't care what rods you use. You're occasionally or like snagging them on things, pulling them out of the rod lockers. There is potential. So there's one loose one. So this is one that we will probably just tape back on because it's a good eye. We can check it here with a Q-tip. Make sure it doesn't snag anything. Seems like it's good. So I'm just going to tape this back to the rod blank so that probably Uncle Marty will be the one that will end up rewrapping this for me. But we will just put that, wrap it in place, and basically be marked now to get rewrapped. Then I will check the rest of the guides with a cotton swab. Make sure we don't have any sharp edges, rough spots that will pull that basically would be a risk to line snagging. I probably would notice this because a rod that I fish a lot, because I would be breaking off fluoro consistently if I had a bad eye. But while we're going through this, we'll just do these things. So this is in the pile that needs to be fixed. The eye is marked. The reel, I probably should take all these reels and actually cast them a little bit and check them. the rod is almost like a 5-power. That's true. Yeah, this is the unnecessary thing. Yeah, I love this rod. I actually would think about getting another one of these, to be honest. And then, so this reel probably needs, like, I feel like this reel's like, I don't have any memory that this reel's causing me any problems. This is a good time to like clean the rods. So I've got like some of this totally awesome cleaner here from the dollar store. Get it a little bit on the rag and just clean like the gunk off the reel seat. Just wipe down the cork and just kind of wipe down the blank. It's not really necessary to do this, but it's just kind of nice to give your rod a little TLC. This is also a good process because like sometimes you can find like hairline fractures in rods by doing this. Like if your rag catches on something, it will alert you to maybe an existing condition to avoid yeah. Yeah, it's gonna snow here tomorrow, Jose the Bass Man. So I'll probably be throwing a tantrum tomorrow too. But you know, wiping down the cork. I seal all my corks with sweat, dirt, and fish slime. That's my preferred method of sealing corks. But so just giving a little wipe down just to every now and then. But this is going in the pile that needs to go for a rewrap. Rod one. Got 4 of them. I've got one of them. I've also got 2 DX 745s and 2 764s. But yeah, so this is a newer XP. Yeah, highly recommend this rod. Like to me, this rod hits really similar to the DX 745, the Champion Extreme 745, for basically $100 left. I feel like they're pretty comparable. So I think it's better value. Yeah, steel wool will clean the cork up. Magic erasers will clean the cork up. Any little cleaner, like if you want to get it a little shinier, you can definitely take a magic eraser and a steel wool to it. But this is plenty good for me. This is all I really need. But if you want it to be like looking like new, give them that bright cork look, you can definitely go a little more aggressive than that. But this is just getting a clean wipe down. This is the 744 jig rod special. Hopefully Omnia gets restocked here with Thorn soon. I've been mentioning to them that we need more rods in stock. So somebody asked, do I this is the new pocketless hoodie. Yes, it is. I did see that they actually put these up on their website, Arsenal Fishing. So if you like the looks of this hoodie and you don't mind not having a front pocket, these are on the Arsenal website. And you can use code HellaBass15 to save 15%. We did give one away a little while. It does have like a kind of a cool Arsenal logo on the back, but I do like the camo. Otherwise, yeah. But I think somebody asked in the chat, do I clean my own reel? Kinda not. So let's just grab another rod. So here we have the Cadence 735B. And again, I'm already missing an eye here. So this rod needs to be taken off, or this reel needs to be taken off. Feels like it. I mean, so what I've done in the past at times with my reels is I'll often like pull the side plate, pop out the spool, kind of get in there and maybe take a Q-tip, wipe down what I can from like externally, like reach with just that, like just pulling out the spool and the side plate and maybe dropping a little bit of oil in there. That's pretty much the level I will take a reel. If I need any more than that, I'm going to send it to somebody. So I do have a box of about 6 reels that I got back from Chris Russ, who's a channel member, and he does a pretty good job. So you could look him up. I also Trey Harple from TH Customs I would recommend. So yeah, that's kind of my level of cleanliness. All right, so we're gonna check this one. So the 735 CB Caden, it's a cranking stick, 7'3", 5-power cranking rod. I mainly throw like DT10s, 2.5 square bills, lipless cranks. Here we got a sussy one that needs to be straightened. So just the one missing, a couple that need to be straightened. So then we'll take the Q-tip to it. But yeah, so I typically, I think I got like probably 15-pound big game on this, maybe 12-pound big game on that reel on a Corrado K, let's say, guess a K, something like that. And this whole Q-tip exercise not only checks for nicks, but it's good just to clean them a little bit. You get a little bit of dirt on that Q-tip, that stuff that just potentially is rubbing on your line, so that's good to like wipe that off. And then typically get a lot of goop and gunk in that reel seat area. Seems like weeds and dirt kind of get in that area. This sitting at my computer is probably not the easiest place to do this process, but yeah, and that's the other reason to just wipe it down with a rag and a cleaner is just more so the eyelets and the ceramics, just keeping those clear of getting the dirt off them every now and then, because that dirt is just rubbing on your line, which prematurely can, whether it's fluorocarbon or mono, is gonna prematurely. So we're 2 for 2 on rods that need eyelet repairs. It's a sign of a tool and a rod that fishes and gets fished, Trevor. I agree. These are not showpieces, these are tools. I mean, as much as they look nice and they're good, I'm not worried about how clean they look. But if you guys got any questions on the rods, what I use them for, things I don't cover, let me hear it. This is kind of designed to be like dual purpose chat. Here is a older 705 CB. This is the pre-XP. So this rod probably is over 15 years old, I'm guessing. It's a good question from Rob Kilty here. He says, might be a silly question. There's no silly questions. Fishing from a kayak, I'm limited to 8 to 9 rods. I'm impressed that you get 8 to 9 rods in a kayak. Am I losing anything by going to a example Champion Extreme 743 and leaving a Champion Extreme 703 at home? I don't know that I've ever owned the 703, but based on what I've heard, I think they're very similar rods. You just get a little extra length. So I don't think the 703 would do anything that a 743 wouldn't do. I feel like the actions of the rod are similar. So like, I think they both would make good finesse jig rods, Senko rods, light Texas rig rods. I'm not sure what you use it for. I would probably consider like, is the 703 easier to manage in the kayak, or is the long rod easier to manage? If you're fishing more open water, making longer casts with it, right? You might like the longer rod and the more line movement and hook setting control of the fish. If you knew you were going to be up fishing shallow around trees and docks and like undercover, then maybe you'd like the shorter rod for better accuracy and things like that. But I don't think you need both of them potentially. 703 could definitely be a jerkbait rod, especially in like a Sierra in a pinch, I think. but it probably wouldn't be my number one choice. But I definitely think if you're looking for a rod that can do multiple things, a 703 can be a jerkbait rod. So this one looks like I have at some point stepped and crushed this. I think at one point I kind of took a little bit of sandpaper and just smoothed that out a little bit. But this is a 705. This guide down here has been tweaked more than a few times. Like I said, this rod's probably 15 years old. So this is a 705 CB non-glass. Primary thing I would use this for is square bills, mostly. Kind of surprised. It doesn't look like I've ever had anything rewrapped on this, and these guides are stood the test of time. But like square bills, you could probably throw a DT10, DT8. You could throw a DT6 on it. Square bills, shallow to mid diving crankbaits, jerk baits on a 705, like the full size 110s, rear range plus ones, things like that. Definitely would throw on a 705 CB as well. This one does not look like it needs any repair. I pulled the reel. This must be one of the reels I've already had Chris cleaned because it's already off. So these must have been one of the ones I sent out back in around Thanksgiving. So just give the handle a little clean. Yeah, I think in general, I'm a fan of longer rods. But I just have heard some people say that, and I'm not a kayak expert. I've not really fished a ton in kayaks, but I've heard some people say that, they prefer shorter rods in kayaks. But I've also heard some people say they prefer longer rods in kayaks because they get more leverage, right? Because when you set the hook in a kayak, it's different than being on shore, and it's different than being in a big boat, right? Anything that's, probably over a 12, 14-foot boat, you're almost stationary when you set the hook. Like when you set the hook, the fish isn't pulling you. And when you're on the dock or shoreline, the fish isn't pulling you. But in a kayak, almost any situation, you're probably moving towards the fish on a hook set to some degree. So having a little bit longer rod could definitely be a beneficiary. So yes, I don't know, Chris, if I shouted you out. If people are looking for somebody to clean reels, you've been doing a little bit. So I think they can find you on Instagram, and I think you pretty much go by Chris Russ on there. He's out of the center of Iowa, kind of Cedar Rapids general vicinity, I think. So, all right. So this one does not need to be repaired. We've inspected it. We can marry it up with the reel that Chris cleaned, and that goes in this pile over here. Yeah, Chris also says a little bit longer rod in the kayak. Yep. So I guess definitely reach out if you're interested in having somebody in the visor gang take a look at your reels. He also does like minor to moderate repairs, I think, as well. Yeah, you can also power up. All right, just south of Des Moines. But shipping reels is not, I mean, get a flat rate box or a ground box, you can ship quite a few reels for 10, $15. So with the price of gas, you can ship reels pretty cheaply, inexpensively. Yeah, you can also power up. You can upsize your line potentially. You can go to braid in some situations or braid to leader to kind of counteract that movement of the kayak and that kind of stuff. Yeah, there you go. As I was saying it, Rob typed it in. All right, we got another oldie here. Try to put this sleeve back on this one. Even though it's the wrong sleeve, that should go on the other one over there. He also does ultrasonic cleaning on some of the parts. So, all right, grab another rod here. What do we have here? This one is also a pre-XP. This is a 734C pre-XP. So this is probably one of the very first Dobyns rods I got. So I would venture to guess that this rod is 15 years old. Maybe more. It could be 20. she's seen some things. The 734, when I first got it, I probably threw like jigs and Texas rigs and tubes on it. But as I grew to understand the rod and the lineup, this is kind of a doodle rod, right? This is the rod that Gary designed for super spooks, but it will do jigs. It will do big spinner baits. It will do big liplesses. You could probably throw a deep crank on it in a pinch. It just has that, it's got a good material and sensitivity to throw bottom contact rods or bottom contact baits, but it also has a slightly moderate action for throwing moving baits. So for me, now these days, it's mostly a swim jig rod. That is its prime function day in and day out. But I will throw a chatterbait. I will throw a big spinnerbait on it. In a pinch, if I need something else, a rod to flip, just like they're not really on moving baits, and I need to flip something, I will flip a tube on this or a jig or things like that. So surprisingly, these are all in great shape. This thing is a battle tested. One thing I never really have took the time to look at is getting a new 734. The fact that this thing is 15 to 20 years old, and it's been casted and flexed and set the hook thousands of times and just age. I wonder how much softer will this rod get over time versus a new one? I don't know if anybody's really done that study, but uh so North Star Custom says, I throw a 3/16 to 5/16 Northern finesse style swim jig a bunch. What Dobyns rod would you use with braid? Ice, I think a 734 quarter to 3/8 ounce swim jig is what I use. And when you say finesse style swim jig, I'm typically thinking lighter hook, which makes me think fluorocarbon. I guess it also depends if you're using drag with your braid or not. Like if I'm throwing a real thick, heavy swim jig, I go braid, and if I'm throwing more of a finesse thin wire style, I go more fluoro. But I still typically land on the 734 for swim jigs, personally. I guess it depends how finesse your finesse is. But if we're talking like Brovanes, that kind of stuff, then I would just throw 734 with fluoro. I have found with braids that if I lean on them too hard, I will straighten the hook on some of those lighter wire ones. And that's because I don't typically have any drag and I don't adjust my hook set. It even smells like fish slime, not gonna lie. All right. So now we're two rods that don't need to be fixed and two rods that do need to be fixed. Another one that doesn't have a reel on it. So this is the little brother, I think, here. This is the Sierra 734, which thanks, Alabama Amy. Appreciate it. So 734 Sierra, very similar rod to this Champion 734, just ever so slightly softer throughout the taper. But this is mainly my chatterbait rod. And I think I see, be hard to show this, but my top the tip guide is missing the ceramic. I don't know if I can get the rod into frame in the tip with the amount of space I have, but we are definitely missing that. So we need to put a little piece of tape up there. That's definitely you can get by without some guides and taking them off with the tip guide. That's non-negotiable as far as not having the ceramic in that one. That will wear your line out in a hurry. So this one is not out. Maybe I glued this one back in, but it's definitely you can see where it's like cracking a little bit. So we'll just mark that one because if it's not going to fall out, it's probably going to fall out in the not too distant future. So we'll get that one rewrapped. Check the remaining ones. But this rod gets a lot of work as a chatterbait rod, for sure. Probably not going to worry about. There's enough repair. I'm just going to wipe down the seat and the cork here. Amy, you're going crazy over there. People on TikTok, you guys should follow Amy. She's on a TikTok mission. Check her out. So we're simulcasting on the TikTok just because it's what you do. All right. So this one in the fix it pile. So we're back to 3 to 2 that need repairs. That one's got 2 eyes. So we've looked at 5 rods and I've got 4 eyes that need replacing. Engaging. Yeah, cleaning rods. Is this your kind of thing? Imagine if I was on a vibration table while I was cleaning these rods. All right. Next up, Sierra 703, which I've used this for a few things in over time, is I've used it for smaller spinner baits, fishing with fluorocarbon, and mono big game. I've used a version of this rod with braid for top waters. I've used it for the grass piece, smaller chatterbaits, mini maxes, things like that. I got a older Corrado 200 on it. This is a rod I've actually considered getting rid of and just getting another 734 though. It's a potential. So looks like the eyes are in good shape. Probably just going to clean the handle here, leave the reel on it. This is probably a reel that I should probably cast a few times because this is definitely I think this is a Corrado G, 7 to 1. It probably could use a little TLC, so I should probably cast this one, make sure it's not full of dirt or lacking oil or lacking all that stuff. And probably one that I should have Chris look at. But we're doing this now because we're mid-January. What's up, HCB chemistry? What will you take them to Thorn? You talking about for the eye wraps? I used to take my rods to Thorn, and they do a good job. They don't charge a terrible amount. It's a good option. But now that Uncle Marty has been doing custom rod work, I've just been having him do it. But in the past, I have brought plenty of rods up to Thorn Brothers for rewrapping. So it's a good option. They have a good tackle selection. So it typically takes them a couple weeks. It depends on the time of the season. Sometimes they're not that busy, and other times they are super busy. So sometimes you can literally get a handful of rods back in a week, and other times it takes a couple weeks. Off topic, stupid line size. Let's see if I have the stupid tube rod, one of my stupid tube rods here or not. I think they're both. Right. So we'll make it on topic, Chatterwagon, and we'll look at the Dobyns DX743, which is my main. I got two of these. And this is what I throw stupid tubes on mostly. This one's got a Tatula 70 on it. I think my other one is a Chronarch 50E that I had Chris clean. And typically I will throw anywhere from, I will say, 14 to 18 pound fluorocarbon for a stupid tube. It really depends on the water, the cover, but like if I'm on Vermilion, it's probably 18. If on the river, it's probably 16 to 18. If I'm in a clear water situation like Mille Lacs, could be 12 or 14. So yeah. So I think 15. I mean, I'm throwing 3/16 most of the time, and I more times than not have 15 or greater on my stupid tube. And I catch a lot of fish on a stupid tube. All right, so let's check the eyes on this. So this is the newer Champion Extreme, the newer HP. Yeah, Dobyns will send out free guides if you get it right to the whole people. I'm going to show you. Actually, we can talk about where do I get my guides, because I haven't ordered guides from. I guess when when I had Thorn do it, they had so many guides. They always just had guides that would work and that were fine. So this one does not seem to have any loose ones, which is good. Just gonna tie this line off here. Amy, we are on YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok. On the computer is running YouTube and Facebook, and then my phone is running the TikTok. So we give the cork here a little wipe down. And we'll put this in the good to go pile. This is where was I going with that? Oh, so here's so I don't care what over time you're going to break a rod, whether it's in a door, whether it's on a fish, whether it's somebody stepping on it, when it's a rod locker, you swing it and hit something, put a dent in the blank, like all rods will break. So what I like, so when you warranty a Dobyns, right, you're going to cut the section out right here, and you're going to be left with a handle and some amount of rod from where you broke it. So what I do when I have time is I will, watch some YouTube, throw on a stream like tonight, or watch a tournament video, and I'll basically take a razor blade and I'll cut these old eyes off these broken rod sections. And then I'll just put them in a little baggie. And then whether you bring it to a shop or a buddy that does custom stuff, if you have enough of these broken sections that you've salvaged, you almost surely will have the right size eyelets. So you can just accumulate these little eyelets, and you can be watching football, listening to a podcast, sitting on the deck, be grilling, right? There's a lot of things you could just be multitasking and take a little razor blade or an X-Acto blade and pop these eyelets off broken sections to be later used on, where you've popped one out or you've lost a ceramic, right? You can have pretty close to the right, size matchup. So that's my advice. You can also order them from the Dobyns shop. and they're supposed to send them out for free. But this actually probably takes less time and is easier than dealing with somebody in customer service and waiting for eyelets in the mail. So in that amount of time, I've already pulled 3 eyelets off this rod. So Tacklecraft, what's going on? Oh, I also have a swim bait in a box over here that I could unbox tonight. So we should maybe do another couple rods, and then we'll look at the swim bait that I got here. So I don't know. This was an idea I had. I was like, Rich, you need to sit down and go through your rods and do this stuff tonight or one of these nights. And it's like, man, but I always feel like I should be making some kind of content. So I thought I would try to combo this effort. And I don't know if this is the best idea I've ever had or the worst idea I've ever had as far as like, is this the most boring stream? Or is it like, hey, we're doing something new? We don't need guests every single week. And I don't know. What you guys think? We're gonna be done doing this here in a second. Or if you're like Tacklecraft, you just don't fish that often, then you don't have to worry about your rods ever being broken or needing to replace eyes. So like there's 4 eyelets. Grab a little baggie, throw them in there. When I bring my rods to Uncle Marty, maybe just give him a pile of these eyelets and he'll find the right ones that match and he'll probably keep some for himself and we're all good. Yeah, just the E series in general, Michael Bradley is just they were some of the best reels out there. But yeah, Brian, you can find local shops to retie, and also I don't think retying is that hard if you really want to get into it. But it's also not that. So here we also have another pre XP 684 CB. So this is a 6'8" 4-power cranking rod, and honestly, this rod does not get that much use. You know, if I'm throwing like tiny little flat sides, shad wraps, things that should probably be thrown on a spinning rod, but I don't want to throw on a spinning rod, that's where this rod comes in, and I just don't do it. So are you playing along at home, David? Like, is this inspiring? Is there anybody else is like, you know what? If Rich is gonna do this, I'm just gonna do it at the same time. This is another rod that I would potentially consider selling because I don't use it that often. Some people love this as their number one jerkbait rod, a 684 CB. Like Billy Coles down in Smith Mountain, he loved it and he'd throw like full size, like 110 juniors. I would also throw on that rod at time. So yeah. All right. Let's get another battle tested. So here we have a 745, the older gen extremes. So not an HP, just an extreme, but not an HP. So this is the old styling where it kind of had like that. And I've also this one is another one that I've somewhere along stomped with a trolling motor and broke that off probably. But it kind of had this chameleon kind of look, which some people really like that old look. So 745. Yeah, Magic Eraser definitely works good on the cork. No denying that. If you really want to get them cleaned up, that is a good option. This one I would suspect could have. So here, actually, right? Somebody asked about Thorn Brothers. They would mark the ones that they did with this little green tape, and a lot of times I just left it on there. So this is a rod that had been sent to Thorn Brothers at one time to have some eyelets. This is another rod that's definitely in the 15 or so years old. I got some blue tape on here that I marked for something. I'm just gonna take that off. Maybe it was a rod that I marked with blue tape at one point that it needed something to be done on it. I don't know. But this for me, flipping, you know, up to 3/4 ounce beavers, 1/2 ounce. football jigs, Carolina rig, chickens, smaller swim baits. That kind of stuff is kind of where it lives in my rotation. This tape's been on here a while and it's coming off in weird strips. Not a good situation. All right, let's check eyelets here. Mike Adams, thanks for sharing the live. This is one that's been and I would say like Thorn Brothers to me has done always a good job. I've always looked at them and like I could see where the blue tape is to see where they had redone it, and I could never tell like it wasn't a factory wrap, in my opinion. This one looks like it's got glue gushing out of the top one. So evidently I had to re-glue the top one. It's just like goobed up on there, but it seems like it's solid. So, So basically, how does one get in the situation where your rods are this beat up? Is years and years of good enough for the last cast, good enough for the first cast of the next year. But every once in a while, you need a little bit more of a reset. This is something I should do every year that I have not been doing every year. So this is how we got in this situation. Ron Mayer, we're busy. Ron wants to vent after the Minnesota Bass Nation. But he clearly isn't watching me live, or he would know not to call. So TBF Ron. So it seems like this is in good shape. As much abuse as this thing has seen over the years, I think she's ready. That marked eyelet, yeah, we got a lot of, and this is where they get loose, is because I end up bending them back, and that's definitely what wears down the that puts stress on the wraps and the epoxy for sure. Would you throw the chicken on 744 or 744 or 765? I would probably go 744. I really like the 764, but I think the 744 would be my second choice. I don't think you need a 5-power for the chicken. I think you want a little tip, because a lot of times it's like a swim bait bite. That's just my opinion. I think you could do it on either one, but I think there are other techniques that you'd want that 5-power for more than the chicken. I think the 744 hits hard enough to throw the chicken. I will say I do need to fix this. So this is something I can do myself, but this just needs to be glued, a little cosmetic ring on the reel seat. So that's something I can do here. It's something that like you notice it in the boat and then you forget about it and then it doesn't get done. We'll put this in a separate file. This is the Rich does the repair, not Uncle Marty repair file. Old Chronarch, yeah. This is the E, right? Or is it the D? D, I think. Chronarch D7. Yeah, these are amazing reels. A little heavy by today's standard, but love them. This is another one that I should probably consider a cleaning on. I mean, it's almost as old as my second child. So it's a teenager. And I've probably never done much more than pull the side plate out. It probably would benefit from a good cleaning. Actually, I think AJ showed me that if you go on Amazon Haul, there's a bunch of Northland mullets for like $5-6. Yeah, the 745 is a good chicken rod for sure. I didn't grab a lot of spinning rods because a lot of my spinning rods are newer Cadens and they don't typically get abused much. But this one, my old pre XP 702, this is not one of those rods that's like 15 years or older, and this one definitely needs an eyelet. It looks like I had the main stripper guide one time redone. We'll just see if there's any other ones that need to be redone besides the one that's obviously missing. Everything else seems so. All my spinning rods, braid to leader. This one's got one of my favorite reels is this the older style Daiwa Procyon. This model year, that was a 3000, which is as big or bigger than some of the 4000s. And I just, for whatever reason, have loved how this reel casts, the drag, for being, I think at the time, like $170 reel. Like, I've always thought this has been an awesome reel. The braid on here is probably at least 5 years old, if not older. I rarely ever change the braid on my spinning reels and just put new leaders on it. So basically until it gets too low where it won't cast. And I almost never do any service to my spinning reels. So the other thing, let's talk about line bait casters. Like, I will basically end the year with these rods that have like 15 to 20 pound fluoro on them. And I will go into next year without changing that line. And I will use it next year. I don't know if you think I'm a sociopath or not, but that's what I do. I basically will only switch line when it gets too low to cast, or I notice something for sure wrong with it. Like where I get like sometimes like the mono big game, you'll get to a point where it makes noise, and it's like I just time to change it. But yeah, I'm not a big line changer. I basically, yeah. So you found the Hall deal, and you didn't tell me about it, Chris. So another one for the repair pile. Hopefully, Marty, you're watching. You're getting a heads up on how much work you have to do. My laptop. We back? Looks like my internet spiked or something. Fiber people. Yeah, so I think like I got these little Velcro wraps, and I use this as a drop top. I don't throw a drop shot a lot on this rod, but if I do, I've got this for holding the weight there. Um, so what do I use this rod for? It honestly, as much as I don't like to throw a Ned, it's just got the right action for a Ned. Little swimmers, like little K-Tex, like 1/8 ounce, 3/16 ounce swimmers. That's probably the two things that get thrown on this the most. Is a Ned and a little swimmer. But a 2-power rod like this can be a drop shot rod, a Ned rod, any open hook finesse is kind of what I say a 2-power Dobyns, and this is a 7-foot 2-power Dobyns. But this is the old style, and I feel like this is one where like this probably has just that extra soft action from leaning on them so many times. All right, so now we're 4-4. No, 5-4. 5 in the pile that don't need fixing, 4 in the pile that do need fixing. First braid rod of the night. I think this one's going to be fine. I feel like I've broke this one in the last few years. So this is a Dobyns 795 flip HP, the newer style. It's got a Chronarch on it, 150. It's got probably a 1 ounce punching weight on it. We'll just take a quick look at the eyes on this one. Make sure not missing anything. I will flip punch with this. I will throw really, I need like a real Magnum frog situation. We'll go that way. a couple of them that need to be maybe. And it's a braid rod, so I'm not even gonna like worry about checking the eyelets with a Q-tip. Yeah, so this is basically punching and super heavy frogging the DX 795. Could be used for light swim baiting as well, but I typically have braid, and I wouldn't typically use braid for swim baits. All right, here we go. We have I think this is one of the older 704 CBs. It looks like it's got a 110 Junior +1 on it. This one is definitely just got some age on it, so chances are it could use a little TLC. So 704 CB, DT6s, DT8s, small crankbaits, shallow, and jerk baits, basically. Seems like we're pretty good here. We'll do a eyelet check, since this is something that I probably would throw a lot of 12-pound big game on, or like 12-pound fluoro. And this is definitely not all my rods and reels. These are just the ones that I suspect could need. Well, definitely had some dirty eyes on it. Looks like we're running fluoro. I must have been wanting to get my jerkbait a little deeper here. Got the Arsenal wrap and the 110 Junior +1 there. Just rewrap that a little tighter for storage. If you wrap these tight, they don't slip. If you do a half-ass job in the boat, they will kind of slide a little. Whatnot mode for a minute. Yeah, I got a 110 Junior +1 for the next show, new in the box, and I got some other 110s and some Mega Bass. I think I got a show. Do I think I have a show planned for this Friday? I think so. Carol's here. What's up? All right. We got this. Here's one of my 764s. So I have two 764s, XP champions. One of them I typically have braid on for buzz baits, ploppers, flappy frogs, bigger top waters. And then the other one I have with fluorocarbon that I throw chicken jigs, 6-inch like mag drafts, small glides, things like that. So this is the braid one. Seems like the eyes are in good shape. There's a really strong correlation between how often I throw a rod and how much abuse the eyes take and how often they need to be replaced. Some more of punches. No, this would be a combination of my stuff and stuff that I've acquired for whatnot. That was he said. So the whole punch thing, he went and like filled out the referral and like evaluated whatnot, and then he went through his tackle and basically came up with that box that we did last week and said that's all I would get rid of. And he's like, he was not going to get into like reselling, and he's like, it doesn't make sense for him to do one or two shows, so he's like, I'll just have you run it and we'll just split it. So that's how that came about. All right, we got another one for the does not need major work pile. But I do have plenty of JDM. We got some Mega Bass, we got some OSP, we got some plastics, we've got grass pieces, we've got some JDM chatterbaits. some Arashi. We got a good mixture of stuff for the next show. Where did I drop my cleaning rag? Where'd it go? There, it's up there. Should we take a break and open a swim bait that I got in the mail? A little mail call. Let's see. This is from Oklahoma. All right. Zach on TikTok says, in your opinion, what would you say is the best reel for glide bait setup? It's tough to answer. It kind of depends on what size glide we're talking, Zach. For most of the glides, like 6-7 inch glides, you don't need more than a 150 size reel. You start getting into the 8, 9, 10 inch glides, you probably need at least a 200 and maybe start going at 300 size reels. A little card. Thank you for your business. I stand behind my product and its quality. For any reason you're not satisfied with my bait, message me on Facebook or email. Biggs Baits. So Biggs Custom. So this is James Biggs, but also must be James and Ryan. But we got a sticker in here too. Biggs Customs. So I got their 7-inch glide in a crappie. It's got some nice sharp hooks on it. Rotating hook hangers. What do you guys think of that? Brush tail. Got some kind of Biggs eyes on it. Crappie pattern. So for this style glide, right? This thing weighs probably right at 2 ounces. 2 1/4, 2 ounces. Like, I don't think you need a special. I think a 150 to 200 size reel is all you need to throw this on, 17 to 20 pound mono or fluoro. Size wise, it's pretty comparable to a Trick Shad or a Tato. Right. So here's next to a Trick Shad. About the same length. It's a little less deep in the body. The joint, I would say, has a similar amount of angle, so I would expect them both to be somewhat of a choppy style. And then you compare it to the Tato Glide. I'd say again, the Tato is a touch deeper. The Biggs is maybe just ever so thicker right behind the gill here. But so excited. I've heard good things about these, and they're not saying they're inexpensive or they're cheap, but I want to say these are only 70 or 80 bucks. And I think he was running a 30% off, like New Year's sale. So I don't know. What do you think? North Star Custom, would you throw this? They do make bigger ones too. Chatterwagon says, have you jumped on the pink purple Chatterwagon? Not really. I've got a couple, but I have not jumped on the wagon, I don't think. Carol says it's pretty, so that's good. All right, back to the rods. We were about halfway through the rods. Kind of excited about that. Will that make the ice thaw any sooner by buying glide baits? Would you throw that? Terrified a pike would buy. I mean, I've thrown that Tato which is like $180 or 150, 60, 70, 80. I've thrown that, so why wouldn't I throw this one? This one's like half price. All right, moving up. I think this is another 704 CB. I have two of these. This one's got a older Corrado E50, which is a nice little. So I like this. This one probably throws more jerk baits and DT6s because of the smaller reel on it. It just throws that these smaller baits a little better. It looks like it's got 12-pound big game on it. This again is another one of those pre-XP rods that's been around the block for a minute. It's probably was in the Aries. It probably made it through the Bass Cat and the Camus and the Phoenix. So like it's seen some things. So wouldn't be surprised if we found loose eyelet. But I don't feel like these cranking rods, I don't end up replacing eyelets as often. It's like my slacklining sticks are the ones that I end up replacing eyelets more, right? Where I'm boat flipping, bigger fish, bigger line, harder hook sets. I don't seem to have as much problem on my leaning into them rods, I guess. The treble hook rods. Seems like we're in good shape here. DFD, what is going on? You could dive in after a pike all you want. I don't know it's going to do you any good. I mean, I don't throw glides a ton, but I've never lost a glide to a toothy critter. I've only lost them to snags. And I don't know, I don't know if North Star's still here, but if you go back and listen to all the swim baits I've done, whether it's Tom Campbell or Sindrich, uh, the guys from Throwback, guys that throw a lot of glides in our northern muskie and pike waters, and they can guys even that throw them all the time, that they almost never lose them to tooth. Like it just doesn't happen that. Yeah, that's exactly Chatterwagon. Like those hammer sticks, you know, and those are I think also the rods I throw more, right? Like I throw my fair share of chatterbaits and swim jigs and crankbaits, but like, man, I much prefer to be flipping and pitching and stuff and skipping docks and jigs. So those rods get a disproportionate amount of beating. And I think that's why the guys just need replacing every now and then. All right, we got another rod in the pile that does not need a repair. I've definitely seen a theme, a trend. Speaking of the 735, this isn't it. Never mind. I thought this is the wrong blue reel. This is my other 764 that has uh fluoro on it, but it does have the coastal on it with the upgraded knobs. I got this one from Mr. Westmoreland, who likes to watch the replays every now and then. So shout out Johnston. There's your reel that you sold me. Still looking good. Still looking sexy AF on this. I mean, just look at that. Dobyns XP with a blue coastal is just mm, tasty. All right, I think we don't got any loose ones. Make sure we don't have it. I don't, I don't feel like I scratch or crack guides very often. That's one thing that's not been an issue. Typically, if it happens, it's because it gets like stepped on and it gets cracked. Like it's been he's fishing. All right, another one in the good pile. Let's wipe down the handle on this. An hour? What's going on? TikTok wants me to verify that I'm a real human being and not a bot. So this bait cleaner, this total LA is totally awesome. You can get it at like the dollar store for like $1 or $2. And Baitman swears it's the best thing for cleaning up old lures that have been sitting around in tackle boxes for whatnot. So I went to the I think by us it's Dollar Tree, and you can get it, but I think also down south you can get it at the Dollar General. They might be the same company, I don't know. But that's the bait man. I said for $2, Baxter, I'll try it. And I've cleaned some baits with it, and I just thought it'd be good to wipe down the rods with it. It's got a decent little smell to it. The SBs and pike thing is more in your head. Yeah. Absolutely. For some reason, I think pike headshot smaller baits, but they don't seem to headshot the bigger baits. All right. 765 CB, also in the pre XP. So this is a 7'6" 5-power cranking rod. Definitely got some gunk and stuff built up in the reel seat here. This had a reel that I sent. I think I had a Tatula that I sent to Chris to clean up. Typically run this with 14 to 17 mono or fluoro. And a lot of times I'll either use this for the little bit of deep, like more than 10-foot cranking I do. So like DT 14s, 16s, 20s, I will throw on this. But what it gets used for more is like bombing a 1/2 ounce or a 3/4 ounce trap more often than not, is what this rod ends up being. Like I throw a lot more lipless than I do deep cranks. So that's what this rod gets used for most of the time. These Q-tips are taking a little beating here. But yeah, we haven't found a snag in a guide yet today, so that's good. This reel seat definitely needs a little. Got a bunch of Mississippi River sludge on the reel seat here. That and gravel roads. And I'm also one of those people that is really good about early in the season of putting my rods in the rod locker with sleeves. And then when times to come home and fishing to the last minute and not wiping down my boat as much, and then driving down the road with those rods and reels sitting on the deck, that's just getting extra dirt and debris that builds up. So that's something I could be better at, is put my rods away before I drive down the road. Yeah. Pike will take jigs, Texas rigs, chatterbaits like it's their job. But for some reason, crankbaits, but for some reason, I've not had that problem with glide baits. Oh, we got another. Well, here's the 743 full handle in the pre XP. So this is, I think I had Chris clean up the Chronarch 50E on this one. So we need to check the eyes. This is a rod that gets a fair amount of use. As you watch the video from earlier this year, the Stupid Tube gets. I do have a ring here I need to glue back in place here. So that is something. More of a nuisance than anything. It's up Full Scale Dale. There's another one where I've had this one replaced at Thorn sometime in the last decade. So this is another, 10 to 15-year-old rod. Sheen its fair share of smallmouth and largemouth. Gotten a lot of reps on the old Vermilion. Mississippi River. Been in a lot of YouTube videos. She's doing good. I mean, 15 years old, and the worst thing that's happened is this little ring popped free on this reel seat. You know, you're doing something. Definitely got some of the sludge in the reel seat here. But look at that. The HP cork, just a little shine. Look at that. Come on. Give her just a little bit of TLC up here because she's been such a good girl. Wipe down the blank in the eyes. I'll put a little piece of tape so I can glue this ring so it's not rattling around on a hook set come April. When do we think ice out's going to be in Minnesota? Those people that live around the metro like me, when do you think we're going to get the boat out? What do you guys think the first time that the Phoenix hits the water chasing bass in Minnesota? What's your guesses? I never fill my cork, Michael Bradley. I do not. Yeah, they're harder and harder to find, Chatterwagon. The pre HPs. They're a cool rod. You know, like these. There's another one. This is the other 745. Also has an old crown arc on it. This one has like an aftermarket like handle on it. It did get stepped on, so we lost a little bit of our cork down there. This one's still got the trigger on it. But again, football jig, flipping beavers, Carolina rig, jigs, casting jigs, mullets, chicken jigs, small swim baits. Same thing. Surprisingly, is not. I don't see any of the old thorn tape on it, unless I took it off or fell off. Unless if Marty redid some rods like a couple years ago and he didn't mark them, so some of these could have had some reels or eyes replaced by Marty. Early April, repeat of last year. Didn't we get out? Couldn't we have got out on March last year? I'm trying to remember. Trying to remember when I first went crappie fishing. Oh, we're losing a little bit of threading around the. Yeah, that's fine. We ain't gonna sweat that. There have definitely been times I've been out in March on the river. Chris says one of his lakes down Iowa opened up last week. Got a picture of a boat on the water and was wishing I still had the kayak ready. Well, what? How does the kayak have to be ready? What wouldn't be ready? What did you do to make it unready, Chris? Another reel that probably should be sent to Chris just to get a little bit of something done. All right. These ones all probably should get like I should take all these reels and just like on a nice day take them out and just cast them around a little bit. Let's hopefully Josh is right. There was not last year, but the year before that. The year the Camus was in the shop with the Mercury with the drive shaft. You could have darn near fished all year round. You pull off the accessories and store it at your mom's. All right, here we have a DX7. Oh, the 705. They don't make this anymore. We will be sad if we break this one. Might have to call up Gary personally and be like, "Are you sure there's not one in the shop?" All right, so we do see there is a missing guide up here. So this is either one that was rattling around or the insert pulled out, and then I just took it off so I could keep fishing. So that's the thing that I'll often do is like, if it's so annoying that I can't keep it in, I'll just cut the line, pull it off, and throw it in the boat somewhere. Um, or if it loses the ceramic, I'll remove the guide and then just basically keep fishing it. So this probably came out middle of last year, and I probably fished with this rod like this, missing this eye most of the year. But this is probably the rod. Well, this is the rod that had the 3/8 ounce Bass Tech jig on it. That was my number one tournament producing lure of the year. So Dobyns DX705 with a 3/8 ounce Bass Tech jig and a Tatula SV. Was it 150? 7-1. Typically has 18 to 22 pound shooter on it. And throw this jig into anywhere thickest cover to weeds from 1 foot to 20 foot and slackline them if you got them. This is another reel that I should probably actually I did have this is one I did have Chris clean. I just put it back on this reel for the year-end video. So this reel's in good shape because I had Chris take a look at it. So that reel should be dialed, dialed, dialed. But I didn't bother cleaning the rod, so we might as well just clean that up while we got it here before we put this in the Uncle Marty replace the eye pile. Have I picked up any newer reels? I added one. Yeah, Chris, you were watching in the member stream. I showed you I bought 3 of those Tatula CTs for like $70 a piece from Bass Pro and a older style Vanford for like under $200. Or are you talking about the newer model reels? I haven't bought any new model reels. I bought some newer reels for me, but not necessarily brand new models. All right, so we got 5 rods for Marty and 2 more to go for inspection. All right, look at that little AJ Mendy Magic finesse jig with a speed craw. So this is Dobyns Extreme HP 744, which for a long time was kind of my like Texas rig rod where I'd pitch like up to 1/4 ounce plastics, a lot of like 3/16 ounce baby brush hogs, Texas rig tubes, things like that. But I've been really jamming on Horseshoe Customs, AJ's custom hand tied finesse jigs, and this thing has been getting a lot of play for me. And it's kind of what's been on this rod. It typically has like 16-pound fluoro. I got this Lose. Is this a Hyper May? I got a really good deal on a Black Friday deal maybe 3 years ago, and I've kind of really enjoyed this, to be honest. It's a no complaints. So let's check the eyes on the 744. Yeah, they are good jigs. That one feels loose. That one, it's not out, but it's gonna come out. So we'll just mark that one. I can feel it wiggling. So, oh, we taped over the line. That's dumb. So we are preventing ourselves with some like. Oh, that one fell out. So this is probably one that I've like put back in and taken out several times this year because it just fell out. So it's probably the last time I was out on the rum, I was probably throwing this and probably putting that thing back in there every 20 casts. Probably glued it a few times this year, and oh, and it's missing this one too. So it's literally had one fall out, has one missing, and another one that was loose, and the rod tip's loose. So that needs to be this rod needs. So the BX74 is going to get 3 or 4 new eyelets, or at least rewrapped or re-glued. I think we can just leave the tip on backwards. I think Marty will get the point on that one. I think you'll put 2 and 2 together. We'll just put this loose eye in the baggie so I don't lose it. Guess we'll just check this, make sure there's not any nefarious activity in any of these other guides that are actually still here. So we put blue, there's 2 missing. Guess we'll just give it a quick cleaning. Won't send Marty our dirty rods. We'll at least clean it up first. All right. One more to go. That was in rough shape. All right. One more spinning rod. I don't particularly think there's any issues with this one. This is a Sam Sobe 723. I found myself throwing a fluke on this a little bit. Shaky heads, jigworm. This is a rod that I've considered letting go. So if anybody really would like a Sobe 723, I'm thinking about upgrading to Champion 733. So if anybody is in the market, let me know. But for me, this 3-power Dobyns is a good, like, shaky head, 2 broad, and light Texas rig, wacky rig Senkos, heavier drop shot, that kind of stuff. Braid to fluoro. It's got an older 4000 CI4. Good reels, like those. I seem like I bend the bail springs on just about all my rods from just like riding around in the boat, getting stepped on, the trolling mower, usual suspects. No, we know why you need so many rods. That's the thing, is like we probably went through half the rods. Half of them I just pulled out because I knew they were fine and they didn't need to be looked at. So this is probably only half the rods. Not that you would be judging, would you, Rex? If I had less rods, I'd just be wearing them out faster. Gotta spread the load. Yeah, so maybe we'll just have to throw that up on the old Facebook Marketplace. Give somebody a deal or post it in the Dobyns rod community. All right. That's all the rods we need to look at tonight. We opened the swim bait. January 28th, I've got Texas fisheries biologist Steve Barden scheduled. I don't have anybody scheduled for next week, but we'll probably get a guest for next week. We're gonna just shut down the TikTok here. Bye TikTok. The new mooch minnows in the bigger and little sizes. And the new freeloaders are on Omnia. Maybe just show those off over here. are. I made a Facebook post. I don't know if they're in the new yet. It seems like it takes a little while for them to get here. No, they're not. They're still just on the Freedom Flyer. But if you go to brands, Rapala, they got the new 5 and 6-inch freeloaders in. Looks like plenty of colors. And the 6-inchers look like they've been selling a little bit, but plenty of those. And then the new mooches, and they have some of the 2.5 and 4.5-inch mooches. It looks like there's only a couple colors of the 2.5, but there might be more coming soon. But they have a lot of the 4.5-inch mooches, the bigger mooches. And I did see they also add the claptail, their version of the plopper. It's kind of a cool color, I think. The Night Aurora. So that's their 4 and 3/8 inch plopper. Looks like that one already sold out, or they didn't get it in. I'm not sure. Chrome, Oaky Bone, Matt Shad, Truegill, Matt Shad, Gizzard Shad, Broken Bone. So I don't know who's excited for the new Mooch or the new Crush City or the new Claptail. I did not order any. I have some of the Baby Jacks, so I did not order any Baby Jacks. I'm pretty well stocked on mini chatterbaits, but 40% off. Are they still running that sale? Yeah, they are right there. Does it get added when you go to cart? Or is there a code? Or is the promotion over and they just haven't fixed the banner? I think it's over. They just haven't fixed the top banner yet. New Crush City. Are you going bigger minnows or smaller minnows, David? Dustin, did you use my code HellaBass 10 to save yourself 10% on those freeloaders, Dustin? I will say I made 7 cents on the TikTok live tonight. So maybe I'll just order an ecstasy based on that. Pretty much raking it in. Code and gift card. Nice. That's right. Did you won a gift card at the giveaway night, right? Saving. There you go. Well, yeah, HellaBass 10. You guys can use that code as many times as you want. It does not limited to once per month. And so yeah. I don't know what else we want to talk about. We cleaned the rods. We gave some rod stories. We told them how you use them. Check the eyes. We talked about my hack for like saving the old if people came in late, like getting eyes, right? Like basically when you have a broken rod, you end up like the way Dobyns does it, you send in the label section and then you end up with whatever left of the rod you salvaged. And then I just cut these off and save them for future rods. And that's what I use to re-guide my rods when I lose guides. If I somehow don't save them or they don't, the ceramic pops out or you lose them. So when you make, now that I made 7 cents on TikTok, I probably don't have to worry about saving eyes anymore because, we're just rolling in it. But, an X-Acto. Oh, we got a bleeder. You know what they tell you not to cut towards yourself? That was a good one. So probably should go get a Band-Aid. That's the first time I've ever done that, trying to cut eyes off. So I guess that's as good a time of any to wrap things up with a bleeder. So hope you guys enjoyed hanging out. We'll hopefully have guest next week. We'll get back. Yeah, we're gonna get demonetized now for actually I nicked my other finger too. So I cut myself actually twice. So but we'll live. If you don't see me next week, that means I bled out, didn't make it through the night. So appreciate everybody coming on. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for being patient with the new concept. Hope you guys had fun. And we'll see you guys next week. And we should have might have a bonus video coming out end of the week. Anyways, as always, hope you guys catch more big bass and suck less. Be good, all.